Now, your hosts, Jennifer Fierro and Ben Shields.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening on the Coach Todd Dodge Show as we wait Coach get off practice. And so they're now finished with that bye week and getting ready for district play here in 25-4A. All the other teams were in action last Friday night. So the Mustangs, they started district play with a bye. They get to play the Timberwolves, who won in dramatic fashion in overtime against Leander last Friday night.
Of course, and you wouldn't expect anything less from the defending state champion in Cedar Park. Of course, Leander and Cedar Park met for only the 11th time in their history. So for them to pull out a dramatic victory like that in overtime says a lot about Cedar Park. And again, it goes back to why Coach and I think that Cedar Park is rightfully the defending state champ and looks like the team to beat in Class 4A.
All right, we'll have more on the Cedar Park Timberwolves, this week's opponent, and District 25-4A action. Coach, good evening. How you doing?
Doing great. How y'all doing?
We're doing wonderful. Thanks for joining us on the first week of your district play. So how'd the bye week go, and how has practice been to date?
Well, I thought the bye week went great. The first 2 days of the week, we spent a lot of time on us, and then tried to get a head start on Cedar Park the last 2 days of the week. Kind of changed it up a little bit. We practiced 2 days at about 6:30 in the morning, and the other two traditionally, like after school. We wanted our players to be able to get to some tutorial sessions and see their teachers after school a couple of days last week, and that worked out well. But it felt like we got some good work in. Obviously, we've had 2 days this week, and kids are working hard, and we've got a great task ahead of us. But that's the life in this district.
How was the mood last week with the kids?
Well, I thought that resilient. It's one of those deals that we were very disappointed in loss. Didn't feel like we played as well as we're capable of, and but you can't wallow around in it. You got to come back and work on the things that you can work on, things you can control, and the things that we could control last week was making sure that we got some good work in and got better.
And what about the mood this week, knowing that they can strap it up on Friday?
Well, it's they're ready to play again. It was a good time for an off week for us. We got to put some distance between some injuries and get some people back. But like I said, yesterday was a good day. Today, players working hard, so that's all we can ask.
Coach, any changes to the starting lineup as you go into Cedar Park week or district play?
Nope, we're good to go.
Okay. All right. Well, now, of course, you use the bye. You spread out your scout teams or your coaching staff into three scouts team. I imagine that they came back and you guys got some plenty of work in. Can you kind of describe the mood on Sunday as you guys compared notes?
Well, it was, anytime you have an off week, you get a chance on that Friday of your off week to kind of get your varsity staff out and see everybody in your district. So everybody was active except us. It was our bye week. We had a chance to send a group to see Cedar Park and Leander. Had a group over at Dripping Springs and Rouse, and also had a group at Vista Ridge and Vandergrift. It was three really tightly contested football games. I had a chance to see the first part of the Rouse and Dripping Springs game, and then went on over and saw the second half of the Leander and Cedar Park game. But it's always good to get eyes, varsity coaching eyes on everybody in our league.
Okay, Coach. Now, we had talked last week about the fact that you were hoping to see more defensive stops. We forced a couple of punts in 2 weeks. Tell me, after seeing the offenses of some of the teams, the offenses in this district, do you think that your defense, do you feel like you have the right tools in place and everything to force a few more of those?
Well, we're going to have to. We don't have any other choice. We're going to have to use our entire roster, as we go forward. But the biggest thing we've got to do is we got to make sure that we improve our tackling when we get ourselves in space, and you got to get people down and got to get stops. It is, duly noted, a very tough league. It's a physical run league for the most part. We're Cedar Park is one that creates a lot of deception and power, because of all of the different sets that they get into.
You talked about work on us last week during the bye week. Was tackling, was that a big part of it, doing the fundamentals?
Sure it is. It's, the the thing that we've got to make sure that we do is that we're fundamentally sound and continue to work on fundamentals, blocking, tackling, throwing, and catching, and things that we can control. You know, as I talked to our team as we started practice today, the one thing that you have to do is you have to, seems like I say this a lot, but have to take inventory of things you can control, and it's really it's a liberating, feeling if you get your kids to buy into that, that, there are certain things we can control and we can choose to get better at, and we can choose to execute. And there are other things in football that you can't control. Please don't pay any attention to those.
It is the Coach Todd Dodge Show on KBEY 103.9 and Northland Channel 15. You can ask a question by going to our website, KBEY-FM.com. That's KBEY-FM.com. On the front page, you'll see the Coach Todd Dodge tab, and then you can just click on there, get your question in for Coach Dodge, and we'll have those later on in the show. It is brought to you by Discount Beds and More in Marble Falls. We'll be back with much more on the Coach Todd Dodge Show. Thank you so much for joining us this evening on KBEY 103.9 and Northland Channel 15. It is the Coach Todd Dodge Show. Looking forward to the Cedar Park Timberwolves as District 25 4A play gets underway for the Mustangs this Friday night, coming off of a bye. Okay, Coach, so as you mentioned earlier, you split up the coaches and y'all went to all three of the district ball games. Let's first talk about the Cedar Park Leander ball game. Cedar Park wins 24-17 in a tightly contested ball game.
Well, what a great game. It was, back and forth in the first half. When I got there at halftime, it was 17-14. Of course, we've looked at the video. I thought that Leander did a tremendous job of figuring out ways to move the football against them and got some stops and, got themselves in the ball game. And, you probably, if you look at the two teams, you probably would have had Cedar Park as a favorite. But after regulation, it was 17-17. And, of course, Leander got the ball. Cedar Park got the ball first, turned it into a touchdown, and then got the interception to start Leander's drive on their deal. So it was, I think it came out in the paper on Saturday morning 30-17. But it was 17-17, obviously, at the beginning of about 3 minutes before that, at the beginning of overtime, and very, very physical ball game.
Coach, were you surprised by the fact that Leander and Cedar Park, that they played each other so close throughout the game?
No, it really wasn't, because the fact that it's such a Leander has a tremendous amount of pride. It's a big time rivalry game. That game probably, regardless of the records, is always going to be a close game.
Okay, and then, of course, we're going to talk a little bit more about the other game you saw, Rouse, against Dripping Springs. 38-21 was the final there. But just following that game on social media on Friday night, it seemed like that game went back and forth for quite a while, and then Rouse kind of just took control late.
Well, I thought that it was, the time, what I saw was the first quarter was very, the Dripping Springs went down and scored on a long touchdown pass to begin it, and Rouse, reciprocated with a touchdown drive and 7-7. Then it kind of was back and forth, and so it was 7-7 at the end of the first quarter. But very, very close game, and Billy Ray McCrary kind of took over later in the ball game, is what I understand. I haven't seen that video yet, but what I read about later in that ball game. But again, it was I think Dripping Springs even took the lead later in that ball game, and then Rouse kind of took it over. And then, of course, the Vandergrift and Vista Ridge game was a back and forth 28-21 ball game. And so, very much like what you would expect from District 25 4A, some very closely contested games.
In that particular game, Vandergrift and Vista Ridge, it looked like all of the points were scored in the first half. Is that correct?
That's what I saw, yes. I think that's true. Okay.
So do you feel like there's a lot of parity or balance in this district overall?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, the league is one led by the defending state champion. I think we mentioned last week that what I've seen on Cedar Park, 365 days ago until right now, I think they're a better football team than they were this time last year. And they should be. They're a defending state champion with 16 returning starters off of that championship team. I think kudos to Leander for playing them the way that they did. Vandergrift and Vista Ridge, I have not seen that personally, so not a whole lot of comments on that. But, it's one of those deals as we go into it, as we've said before, our goal is to try to get one of those 4 spots. And we just got to grind into each week and try to make sure that we grind for at least, we've got to get at least 3 victories in the next 6 weeks.
Now, just looking at the records here, obviously Cedar Park, Rouse, Vandergrift are 4-1 overall on the season, 1-0 in district play. Leander is 2-3. Vista Ridge is 3-2. Drip is 2-3, and Marble is 2-2. Just because Marble Falls had the bye last week, it seemed like everybody went in with at least a 500 record. Yep. What do you think that says about the competition?
Well, I think that it just proofs in the pudding that this is one of the very toughest 4A leagues in the entire state of Texas. I believe that when it's all said and done, when whoever the 4 are that represent our district, I think that all 4 of them will have a chance to make a great run. And it would not be surprising to me as I look at it at mid-season that we could possibly have the same kind of results that we had last year. And you don't very often find a state champion and a state semifinalist and a 3-round playoff team, from the same district. And so it is, as we've said before, it is the life in 25 4A, and you better strap it up and get ready to play every Friday night.
And after the first week of district play, would you say the defenses are as salty as they were last year?
Yeah, I think offenses are better, though. This time last year, I think people were trying to kind of identify themselves, and find themselves. And I think, probably of the 2 sides of the ball, if I said what was the most improved, I would probably say it was the offensive side of the ball. It as a whole, from top to bottom, from one year to the next, as we go into district play.
It is the Coach Todd Dodge Show on KBEY 103.9, Texas Best Country, and Northland Channel 15. When we come back, we'll talk about this week's opponent for the Marble Falls Mustangs, the Cedar Park Timberwolves. We'll be back. It's brought to you by Discount Beds and More.
Here's Ben Shields and Jennifer Fierro.
The Coach Todd Dodge Show is brought to you by Discount Beds and More on KBEY 103.9 and Northland Channel 15. We invite you to go to our website, get your question in for Coach Todd Dodge, KBEY-FM.com. All right, Coach, so this week's opponent, the Cedar Park Timberwolves, come in at 4-1, a 1 loss to a good Abilene Cooper team.
Well, it's, kind of playing out the way it did last year. Of course, they were defeated by Westlake this year and put it on a good Westlake team early in the start of the season. Of course, went and had another 3-point loss to Cooper. I think it was the same way. I think the same kid kicked the field goal to end the game that did the year before. But Cedar Park is everything that you'd think that a defending state champion was. They've got a lot of kids back. They've got a quarterback back that took them 16 games. Had a few injuries, in their skill position players on offense, but hardly couldn't tell it, the other night. But the biggest thing, their calling card is just big physical on the offensive line. It always has been, and has a very effective running quarterback, and Nate Grimm is definitely that.
What makes Nate Grimm such an effective runner, Coach?
Well, I think he really understands what they're trying to get done with him. He's 6'5", he's about 195 pounds. He's got good speed, but he's got some nice elusiveness, and he really doesn't try to, he doesn't try to make a 25-yard gain out of what should be a 5-yard gain. He gets those 5 yards. He leans forward. He'll turn them into bigger gains, but he's always working his way forward and uses his size and his length, kind of to his advantage, and also his experience, And I think, as you go forward, he is a much improved quarterback from the time that we saw him this time last year, because this time last year they were actually kind of in a platoon situation. They were playing 2 quarterbacks. I'm not sure they had decided on who it was, and then he took over and obviously took them to the state championship.
How do you stop them?
Well, you just got to be physical at the point of attack. You got to make sure that you get lined up against their different sets. They got a lot of different sets. You got to get a lot of hats to the ball. You got to make sure that that when you're in position to make a tackle, you're willing to get run over at times. To be honest with you, got to have some courage. They are going to want to run it downhill, and the whole thing that people forget about. Really what makes them go is year in and year out they're going to be about average about 270, 275 up front.
Wow.
How they get so big?
Well, they just, it's one of those things at Cedar Park ever since they became a school. It seems like they've always had big physical offensive linemen, and they just keep churning them out. And they definitely have them this year.
Well, tell me about the rest of their attack. I do know that Joey Carter, the junior running back, has 54 rushes for 321 yards right now. What makes him such an effective runner?
A slasher, a guy that runs the outside zone really well. Follows his blocks and then puts his foot in the ground and accelerates. What I saw of him in person, very impressed with him the other night against Leander. Tough runner. I don't know exactly what his size is. He looks like he's probably 165, 170 pounds, but comparable to the kid from. In size to the kid that we faced from Bernie Champion.
Now, defensively, what do you expect from them?
Well, they just are so sound in what they do. They run an odd front, 3-4, cover 4 in the back end. They probably are more multiple in coverage than anybody that we see through the course of the year. So we've got to do a great job of running our base offense and make sure that we execute. Like I told our players today, when we got to put a hat on people and block people at the point of attack, we got to make sure we do it. We got to make sure we move the chains. We got to make sure when the ball touches our skin as a receiver that we come down with it. We can't afford drop passes. We can't afford to be having unforced errors. Against a team like that, you got to have everything hitting on all cylinders, and that's what we plan on doing come Friday night.
Now, watching them last Friday night and watching them on video over the past week, what would you say the biggest difference is from last year with the Cedar Park?
Well, I think that they're much improved on offense from this time last year. They moved the ball on us, last year. But coming into the game, I think they were just kind of trying to find themselves. They were pretty young on offense last year, and they seem to be much improved defensively. The thing that I see about them is they rally to the football as well as anybody you'll see as far as getting a lot of people to the ball and great pursuit angles, and that hasn't changed and probably won't.
Coach, do you think that playing Bernie Champion first before you played Cedar Park, do you think Champion helped prepare the guys for playing Cedar Park this week?
Well, it's a little different animal, as you go into the week. Probably, the closest opponent that we faced, as far as a physical run game that. Not that Bernie Champion didn't have one. We just didn't do a very good job of tackling. Was probably LaGrange, with their big offensive line and everything. So. That's the thing is we go into the game against Cedar Park. We've got to make sure that we get some stops. We cannot allow it just to be a deal where a 2-yard run, a 4-yard run, and then a 60-yard run. And we've got to make sure that we keep making them snap the ball. And the more you make them snap, the more you got a chance to make mistakes. And we just got to improve. And that's where our off week came in. Hopefully we'll be an improved football team come Friday night.
And now, being the defending state champs, how much extra incentive does that give your team? Because you know what they say, when you win a championship, you're usually the hunted because teams are gunning for you.
Well, anytime that you get a chance to play the state championship, the defending state champions, and we were on the other end of this when we were at Southlake through the years, you know that you're going to get everybody's best game. Everybody's got an opportunity to make a name for themselves. So I'm sure and that's true for us, as we go in. What a great opportunity. And that's the way I'm telling our football team is what a great opportunity to go and test yourself against the very best in the state.
Okay. Coach, as you continue to prepare, the guys, their mood right now going into this week, have you had to give them a lot of rah-rah speeches? Do you find them to be even more focused and hopefully much more rested after the bye? Yeah,
I don't think that there's any rah-rah speeches right now. I just keep reminding them of things that are important to us winning football games. There's constant motivation that's going on a day-to-day basis, but our players, and our coaches see what we need to improve on. We've got to make sure that we keep our eye on the prize. We've got to make sure we keep improving. We got to play as well as we possibly can. And continue to do that, and we'll make mistakes. We can't keep making the same mistakes over and over again. We want to go out and really compete hard and let the chips, fall where they may against a Cedar Park, where, obviously going to be a very heavy underdog in the ball game. But it's the big picture is play as well as we can, improve this week. You never know. When the game starts at 7:30, it's 0-0. And they don't automatically give someone 21 points just because. The somebody in the paper said they should. So we'll go out and play our tails off and see where it lays.
The old cliche, that's why they play the game.
That's exactly right.
It is the Coach Todd Dodge Show. When we come back, we're going to wrap it up. We got a question for Coach Todd Dodge from a listener via email. You can email us, by the way, by going to our website, KBEY-FM.com, and you'll see the Coach Todd Dodge tab right there, and you can send your question that way. The show is brought to you by Discount Beds and more in Marble Falls.
Now, back to the program with Ben Shields and Jennifer Fierro.
Thank you for joining us on KBEY 103.9 and Northland Channel 15. It is brought to you by Discount Beds and more in Marble Falls. All right, Coach, we got a question from Lance from Marble Falls. He wants to know what needs to be done to get over the hump in District 25 4A.
Well, for us, in our existence in this league, we've got to make sure that we win the games, that when we match up well with people. This is, Cedar Park is not a great matchup for anybody in the state of Texas. They're a great football team. We've got a great challenge ahead of us. We've got to make sure that as we go into the next 6 weeks that we take those games, like last year, for example, the Rouse game, when it was a final of 42-35 or 42-28, whatever it was. And we got to take those 4 or 5 plays that you can tab that were a difference in the ballgame. We got to turn them in our way. Same thing like with Vista Ridge. And so that's where we are over the next 6 weeks, is we've got to make sure that we are being result oriented in a positive way, in a way that's going to put us over the edge to win. And in this league, as you saw from the first week, they're going to be grinding out. There's going to be 7-point wins, 3-point wins, and we just got to go. We got to go manufacture those, and we've got to make sure we go and get ourselves enough of them so that come late November or mid-November, we're in the playoffs.
All right, thank you, Lance from Marble Falls, for that question. Again, get your questions in, KBEY-FM.com. You'll see the Coach Todd Dodge tab on the front of the website. Okay, Coach, what's the sub-varsity schedule like this week?
We are, since Cedar Park is hosting us in varsity, that means our freshmen will be traveling to Cedar Park for a 5:30, 7 o'clock game at Cedar Park High School. They've got an auxiliary field there, so that's where the games will be played. And then our JV will be hosting Cedar Park. It'll be a 6 p.m. Originally, it was a 5:30. We bumped it back to 6, so it's to be a 6 p.m. kickoff on Thursday night with our JV team.
All right, Coach, and of course, you being a University of Texas alum, you want to talk about the passing of James Street, a former fellow quarterback at the University of Texas, like yourself.
Well, just a very, very sad day yesterday when I heard that. James is a friend. I've gotten a chance to know him through my life. Of course, his connection, obviously, with the University of Texas and mine, and then also his sons played for my father-in-law, Evie Neptune, at Westlake, and got to know him even further through that. And, the University of Texas has lost a great man and a real icon, in our history, and he'll be greatly missed.
What would you say stood out the most with James Street?
Competitiveness. I think he's a guy that, you always tell quarterbacks, make those around you better because of your infectious positive attitude, and that's what James was. I think he made others around him better because he was. There was never a bad day with James Street. In the times that I knew him, there was never a bad day. He was always upbeat.
Coach, did he ever offer you any advice? I know that he played in the 60s, you played in the 80s. Did he ever offer you any advice about being the quarterback at the University of Texas?
Just always understand. Of course, he had such a great run, but he knew the position, and he knows that. He knew that you can't get too high with your highs and or too low with your lows. And throughout my career, I've got encouragement from James Street through the years, and notes of encouragement. Notes of congratulations when I did good, and notes of encouragement when things weren't going so good. I always really appreciated that, especially from a guy that understood and been in the same position.
And also your thoughts on DeLoss Dodds, the AD, announcing his retirement today.
Well, that's another, thing. He has done so much for the University of Texas. I've known Coach Dodds. He was when I was 17 years old and reported for two-a-days at the 40 Acres, that was his first year. So 32 years ago was my freshman year, and that was DeLoss Dodds' first year at the University of Texas. I know him very, very well. I see him out here in Horseshoe Bay. I know he's will make his home eventually out here, has a place out here, run into him quite often. And I'm just, proud to have known such a great man, and he's done so much for the University of Texas. And And I know that he'll help this transition as well as he possibly can.
Yeah, have you ever seen a week quite like this at UT?
Yeah, it's it's crazy, and the thing that just very, very sad on James Street's passing, and to me as a guy who played here and as a guy who will bleed burnt orange if you cut me, I just feel very grateful for all the years of service that DeLoss Dodds put in, and I know that all the Texas fans and the Texas alum around the state of Texas will spend this 6 to 9 months really showing the appreciation for what he's done for our university.
What's his legacy? What would you say his greatest legacy is?
Well, I mean, I think the window of the hiring of Mac Brown, the hiring of Augie Garrido, and the hiring of Rick Barnes, and the success that happened along the way. Also, taking the University of Texas from the Southwest Conference to the Big 12, and just so many things. What a tremendous, tremendous leader. And the thing I always was appreciative of him, he got so much better as the years went on. He just became a better and better leader as years went on.
All right, Coach, thank you so much for your time. Good luck to you Friday night against Cedar Park. Looking forward to talking to you next Tuesday.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a great week.
It is the Coach Todd Dodge Show on KBEY 103.9, Texas Best Country. Don't forget to go submit your questions at KBEY-FM.com. You can also come on out to the studio every Tuesday evening at 6:30. Got some prizes to give away for you. Even register to win something from Home Depot. So that's the Coach Todd Dodge Show, brought to you by Discount Beds and More here in Marble Falls. Again, you can join our broadcast 7 o'clock Friday night at 7 o'clock airtime, 7:30 kick. We're making to Cedar Park for the ball game. We'll see you out there. It's KBEY 103.9.